Hello everyone, it's Ben Lister here. How are you doing? And welcome to episode 29 of the BL and Friends podcast. So let's crack on. As you know, each week I have my friends as guests to talk about their hobbies, their careers, their jobs. So let's crack on with this week's guest. It's a broadcaster from all different radio stations and all different radio areas, and a mentor to many. It's the one, the only, Steve Coleman. Hi, Steve. Welcome along.
Thank you ever so much. You say BL and Friends. I like Mr. Lister. I think that's a cool name for you.
Yeah, well, Ben Lister podcast radio show is already taken for another radio station.
Okay.
Which is my show, but basically on another station.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm really privileged to be here with you.
You've probably seen my guest list before.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. And loads more coming up in the next year and a half. Maybe in the new year, I may even have Tony Prince.
Wow. Wow.
If you know who that is.
Yes, of course I know who that is. I nearly worked. One of the stations I nearly worked at was Radio Luxembourg. I went in to do an audition for them, and they gave me some really difficult names because the presenters used to newsread as well, sort of headline stuff. And they put in this Arabic name, which was like Al Hadi Ben Mabruk, and I didn't trip up it, and they liked that, so they thought, we have this guy, and then the management changed. And I never heard a thing afterwards. So that was a bit of a shame. I would have loved that. Radio Luxembourg.
Yeah. We'll get on with the 5 questions now, if that's okay.
Okay.
That's about your broadcast career, if that's okay.
Yep. Now, you've asked me to tell you how I got into broadcasting. That first question is going to take a long time to answer. I was DJing in clubs in the Cheltenham area. 2 regular guys there, Joey Coyne and Jerry Hipkiss. They worked at a club called the Oval, and I was asked to fill in whenever I had one of them had a gig somewhere else. And then subsequently, my brother bought me Emperor Roscoe's DJ manual, which listed all the radio stations around the UK at the time. And one that caught my eye and my attention was United Biscuits Network. Graham Dean, Adrian Love, Nicky Horn, Steve Allen, Peter Young, Dale Winton. They'd all started their broadcasting to people who were squirting jam on jammy Dodgers and the orange and chocolate on Jaffa cakes and things. So to add to that list of names, Steve Coleman, and that was my start. But Christmas 1979, they closed us down. It was just unbelievable because there was no warning, whatever. They said, there's a staff meeting. We've got to get this staff meeting. It was a Friday the 18th of December, just before Christmas. You're out of a job. That was the first time that happened. Subsequently, I learned I had to get used to that. I've been working at a private station, Radio Sovereign, a guy called Crispian St. John, and the team came from a terraced house in Twickenham, where we had a lot of fun there. No money, just fun, and a bit of experience. And subsequently, I went to work at, it was the Wood Green Shopping City. I answered an ad in the London Evening Standard where DJs were wanted for a shopping centre. So I queued at Victoria Station because if you didn't have mobile phones in those days. There were about 5 people in front of me, 5 people behind me, and eventually got to the phone and dialed the number. And this guy answered the phone. Yes, can I help you? And you can guess at any stage who you think that was. Can I help you? So this 19-year-old guy sort of did this interview whereby he said, right, you've got a piece of paper in your hand. Sell me that piece of paper. So I turned to the people behind me and I thought, I'm not going to bother with them. And I told him about this beautiful papyrus from Egypt. It was the most expensive piece of paper in the world, but we got a good price for you. So it's the best piece. I like that. Okay, you've got a potato in your hand. Sell me that potato. So I turned to the person behind me and sort of held my hand out and said, look, that potato there, it's the most glorious thing you're going to taste tonight. Have a bite. And she ran off. And Paul McKenna said, "Do you know what? You've got the gonads to actually carry things off like that." He said, "You're in." So I worked with Paul McKenna, 19 years old, at Wood Green Shopping City. He also was in charge at Woolworths in Oxford Street. So I was DJing there and selling stuff from the Dolly Mixture counter and what have you. And basically, whilst I was there was a guy came in and he was a record promoter, but had sort of the ear of various people and said, "I'll get you a gig at Radio 2. But in the meantime, I was going to Vienna and doing 3-week stints on Blue Danube Radio in Vienna. Dave Jameson was working there, and he suggested I could go to work at the newly formed Viking Radio in Hull. That was 1984. Initially, the promise of doing breakfast at Viking, but the management had basically won the contract, saying that they were going to be using experienced people. And so they put Dave Fewster on Brecky. I got a couple of shows at the weekend and then filling in when anybody was on holiday and stuff. So I was enjoying myself. But this guy who's told me he can get me a job at Radio 2, I went and got a month of earlies, 4 till 6, Saturday and Sundays. And listening back to some of those shows, I really don't know how I did it, but I did. And whilst working at Viking, I saw an ad in the Stage for DJs and answered the ad, which it turned out was for Metro Radio in Newcastle. I had a few guys who answered my phones at the time at Viking. Sexy Steve, he was, went on to be Steve Jordan, now at BBC Radio Nottingham. Another doing a bit of work whilst he was at Hull University was Butch Bruce. This is what I called him on the air. Right, Sexy Steve will be taking the calls tonight. Butch Bruce is doing it tonight. He's ended up at Bauer, Broadcast and Technology Director, Bruce Davidson. Bauer Audio, of course, we've got to get that in. So Metro Radio it was. I was there for 9 years and went on to various other stations as well, which we can possibly talk about if you want me to, but I haven't let you get a word in edgeways yet.
Is that Mr. Mustache, Steve Jordan, who works at BBC Radio Derby and was on Viking KCFM from the whole region?
Yes, that's the one, I believe. Yes. I think he's got rid of the moustache now, though, hasn't he?
No, I think he's got one because I saw him a couple of weeks ago because he's a friend of mine, you see.
Okay. Well, he did some work at Hull City, and I used to go down and when...
He still lives here in this region.
Okay.
He still does his Hull City stuff.
All right. Oh, he's still doing that. Good. Oh, I don't know how he does it because he shouts so much.
Because he knows a friend of mine called Paul Rusling.
Okay. Oh, yes, Paul Rusling. Yeah. That's going back a bit and going to pirate radio.
You know Paul Rusling?
Our paths did cross. Yes, I should have gone out to sea, but I didn't.
What radio station did you cross?
Well, he was Caroline, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he also did a bit of work at Radio Cracker.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was Caroline that I was interested in because you mentioned just before we came on, Carl Kingston. Carl, I used to shack up at his house, had the top room in his house in Hull, and whenever I was up for Viking, I'd stay there. So I slept amongst all his records because there were millions of them. Yeah,
because he was telling me the story about one of his house friends created a story or a book or a magazine.
Right.
I'm not sure who that was. I'll have to go and listen.
Not me. I haven't written a book yet.
I think it was Jay Jackson, is it?
Yeah, Jay Jackson.
The legend that is. Right. Yeah. We'll move on to question 2 now because you've covered question 1. Who were your broadcasting inspirations when you were starting out?
Well, I've already mentioned Emperor Roscoe, but he was something a bit different. Do you know Roscoe or not? Do you know his style?
Cal Kingston's told me a bit about him.
All right. Well, there were 2 really. I took an amalgam of the 2. Noel Edmonds, his breakfast show was absolutely fantastic when I were a lad. And I just didn't want to leave the house and go to school and stuff. I'd leave till the last minute and then miss my bus. But there was Noel Edmonds, creative, genius, absolutely fabulous. And Emperor Roscoe was, it was Saturday lunchtimes, and it was very hot, soul-y sort of show. And the Emperor is with you. And I took a bit of Noel and I took a bit of Emperor Roscoe, and I think I've sort of amalgamated the two and got where I am. Graham Dean's warmth was fantastic as well. He was at Capitol. And you know, you used to turn the radio on and there was your mate. There was your Graham. And of course, Roger Scott for his preciseness, always hitting the vocal, his production values as well. So all those probably pretty old school. And there's a lot of people who are listening going, who?
Yeah, and watching as well. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, this interview isn't about me. Question 3, what do you... Yeah, well, did you ever meet the legend that is either Tony Blackburn or Johnny Walker?
Shall I tell you I don't know. You're leading me in the right direction. Johnny, well, do the Johnny one first of all. I was doing some stuff at Luton Gold there, yeah? And I was sitting in for Paul Burnett, and I was doing my Emperor Roscoe Saturday lunchtime sort of feel to the program, a little bit wild. And Johnny walked in and said, my goodness gracious, you've got some passion, haven't you? You've got something about you, haven't you? My goodness me. And I'm thinking, this is Johnny Walker. This is Johnny Walker talking to me. And anyway, I sort of, you know, I did my show, and then I was doing another show back in Newcastle that afternoon. So I sort of get onto the motorway, I'm driving away. He said, well, many thanks to Steve Coleman. My goodness, he's got some energy, hasn't he? I look forward to seeing him next week. What? This is the legend that is Johnny Walker saying this about, and I'm thinking, oh my word. Tony, well, this is a weird one because I know it was him because I was working in an Italian restaurant in Victoria in London DJing. And over in the corner, there was Tony with the woman in his life at that time. And I let people, you know, live their lives and what have you. So I didn't say anything until subsequently years later, I was working with him at Magic. And I said, oh, Tony, I said, Italian restaurant in Victoria. I said, I think you had a flat in the block of flats above it there. He said, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And totally and utterly denied it. Whether he was with somebody he shouldn't have been, I don't know. But I thought this was really weird. You know, I said, Tony, it's me. I'm not some sort of news of the world reporter or something. Anyway, so those two, yes, there's the answer.
Do you have a James Wales story at all? Because I never asked this.
Well, James, a lot of people were frightened to death of James, and he's a baby. He really is. It was an image thing. If he was on the air, he wanted to promote and get calls. So you wanted to disagree with him, didn't you? So he'd give you something that you could disagree with. But he was lovely, and he never gave me any. I can't use a naughty word, can I? But any rubbish. And it was because I would, you know, I wasn't going to take anything from him. So, how you doing, mate? You're all right. And he's okay. And yeah, he liked me and he liked what I did.
Yeah, he's a legend. And we were talking off camera about the Dale Winton story, if you want to.
All right. Well, I was working at United Biscuits Network. Now, we all know Dale was extremely camp, and you would dress extremely camp. And he had a caftan this one day, and he's put this caftan on, and he's swanning up towards the radio station. And all week there'd been some builders outside the station, and they were all wolf whistling and calling him names as they would or whatever in those days. And he was so embarrassed. He was really so embarrassed. Anyway, there was a bank holiday. So he came around the corner expecting, you know, these guys to be yelling and shouting at him. Of course, there's nobody there because it's bank holiday and they're not working. So he minced across the road and proceeded to fall into the hole that the builders were working on. He nearly broke his neck and nearly didn't perform and get to where he is, where he did subsequently. He fell in the hole, and oh dear, he told it very, very well. That's just one story. I'm not giving you any more though for the moment. I'll stick them in my book.
Yeah, when he was on Trent FM, David Lloyd told me the story about when he was his travel reporter at, or was it Peter Tate? I'm not sure. One of the two used to throw David Lloyd's travel reports in the bin.
I like it. I like it. So he had to wing it, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was Peter, to be honest, because Dale used to segue for Dale when Dale Winton used to go to the bathroom.
Oh, right. Okay. Too much information.
No, I mean segue with the old radio.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Yeah. So where are we up to?
Question 3. What's
okay.
your favourite part about the job?
People. That's where it's at. We are there to put an audience in front of a radar book so that it ticks it and listens. And I love engaging with people, whether it be on the phone, whether it be actually out and about when we're sort of, shopping or what have you. It was quite funny. There was a guy, we went to a local garden centre on Saturday, and there's a guy who was running a stall there with brownies, all different chocolate cakes and things, luxury little cakes. And he just looked at me and went, "Oh my, Steve Coleman, I listen to you every morning." It was it's so funny to hear somebody do that. What I used to get years ago was at 5 to 8 every morning. I'll just give you a little brief background to it. There was our radio station, Metro Radio, was down in a valley, and up on the top of the hill was Wickham, a place called Wickham. And this girl used to open her bedroom curtains every morning and wave to me and go, "Morning, Steve." I didn't know this, but she subsequently told me this. So I thought, you know what? We should do that every morning, 5 to 8. We'll wave to you. This is radio, Ben, okay? This is radio. And everybody used to join in. And hang on, I've made a move away here from the mic. And I used to go, "Yo-ho!" like that every morning. Can you imagine that? 5 to 8. Yeah. Good grief. Oh, my life. So I'm very well known for that cry. So I'd be in Marks and Spencer's having a look at some underpants or something like that. Somebody stick their head over the top of the counter and go, "Yo-ho!" I think it was absolutely hilarious. Anyway, we had badges. I've been yoo-hooed by Steve Coleman. So that was great to be, out and about amongst people is what I do. I used to love doing outside broadcasts. We don't do outside broadcasts anymore. It's such a shame. Wherever I was, I was lucky enough that I went to Sydney to the Olympics over there and did the launch from there to Dubai. And had some incredible times and doing clever little things. I was talking to a lad from the other side a few weeks back, who I hadn't seen for a bit, and he used to be the guy who would sit in the studio, and I would do things like if you've got like a 15-second uptime on the record. I've done an interview with somebody, it's gone on a little bit, I would say to this guy, right, I'm going to say bananas. When I say bananas, start the record. So we would have da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, thank you ever so much. It's amazing talking about bananas like that. But there's Fred so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da. In comes the record, 15 seconds, bang, hit the vocal. And, nobody really, I listen to, I've heard national radio, well, whichever one or two you want to talk about. When certain people, I don't want to put them, anyway, I am putting them there. But when they're doing an outside broadcast, very often you can tell it's very, very flat, very, and they will stop speaking, and then there's a gap until the record's played in the studio and stuff like that. But I had this, sort of thing. It would be a keyword. We'd fire that record off and away we go. But it was, to me, doing outside broadcast, meeting people, that's my favourite part of the job.
Brilliant, yeah. Question 4 now. We're going to a more serious matter.
Oh, good grief.
It's a good one. How has COVID affected your life and line of work?
Oh, my word. Well, it's all in the newspapers and on the news today. We lost my wife's father-in-law, April the 10th, Good Friday. And that hurt like mad. I won't go on about it, but there were worrying times there. I carried on broadcasting. I was very proud that I had a letter saying I was a key worker. Now, usually going out at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's not that much in terms of traffic on the roads. But when COVID hit and everybody except me, it would appear, was working from home, I'd be driving and there'd be not a car. And it was like some weird film that I was in. So that's, affected me initially, but no people and people, as I've just said, are key to what I do, and having them around is key to what I enjoy doing. And can you hear the birds, by the way? Oh, they've stopped now. I'm in my shed, as I said, and Mrs. C's just actually brought me a cup of coffee and left the door open, so there's some birds tweeting outside. Yeah, it was a bit strange, and still is strange because there's only a few people in the studios now who come in, say, twice a week or something like that. It's really weird.
You're above a Greg's, aren't you? Because you share the building with Capital.
Thank goodness for Greg's. Years ago when I was at Metro Radio doing breakfast and everybody wanted a bit of me, they asked me to open Greg's. I used to go out on a Saturday morning and we'd do a bit of broadcast. And we'd be down in Durham, opening up a Greg's there. We'd be just absolutely everywhere. And I love that. And I love the fact that we've got them downstairs to us, which is very, very handy.
So is there only you in the building at the time you're in and a few producers?
Producers? Producers? What are they?
Assistants.
It's me. That's it. I do have my producer actually at the end of the phone, but at the moment that's all we do. It's done, pre-done. There will be things during the program which I will ask whether it's okay to do something or can we put something on any of the socials and things like that. So I do have that, but nothing actually, no actual physical contact, only telephone and email and stuff.
Yeah, because you have is it Capron or Global who owns that building?
Well, right. Well, it's a bit complicated for general, but yeah, we've got Capital and Hart next door to us, but because of the hold separate and all that, Communicore owns the smooth side of things, or leases it at the moment. So they are in next door, but there's just the newsreader, and he hides around the corner, so I can't see him.
Yeah, because the Hart and Capital guys don't start till about 3-4 now, because they only do one show from that.
That's it, which is what they were going to do for us. But we just sort of thought, well, hang on a minute, look at this strength we've got. And this is nothing to do with me. But breakfast is just fantastic. The audience have stayed with us for the last 7 years. And hopefully 2 weeks time, we'll see what happens with Radio this time. And hopefully they've ticked the right places and been listening to the station on the right formats.
Yeah, I was speaking to Neil Fox about listening to Smooth, and he said switch stations.
Absolutely.
I listened to Neil Fox over you.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hope you're not offended.
Yes, I am, desperately. I'm going to cry now. I'm going to cry. No, that's fine. If you found your place and you found what you enjoy, that's cool.
Because Neil Fox, as I say, is a brilliant presenter.
Yes, he is. Yes,
I don't know if you know him.
We've not conversed, no. But that's not that I haven't had the opportunity. No, I haven't had the opportunity.
You're joking, yeah. Yeah, because finally, last question on my list What advice would you give to young, aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
Other than don't. It's so difficult. The only thing I can really sort of put in the mix here is that I'm sitting in a garden shed, which I've converted to a studio. It's called the Shedio, and I've got full internet and capability here. We've got armor cables and what have you with feed down here, and it's relatively cheap to put together something in your own home. So have something, if you can, where you can sharpen up your ability, recording things up. There's a lot of DAB stations opening up. Try and keep an eye on what is coming to your area and try and get in there, because, I mean, where you're looking at the new platforms, is it something like 12, Ben? I think on each of the digital platforms. So there's going to be a proliferation of radio stations, and they're going to need people. So it's good if you haven't got the opportunity. Hospital radio still going strong. You possibly heard about Radio Tyneside last week. 70th birthday for Dave Nicholson and the team for hospital radio. Radio Tyneside. It's more than hospital radio now. So there are opportunities. So do try and seek out those opportunities, and basically you can use what you can in terms of technical equipment and stuff, and do your thing, do what you want to do. Don't try and copy anybody is my main thing. Just be yourself. And I know that's been said before, but it is so true those two words, just be yourself. If you're good, you'll come through.
Yeah, that's all you need to do, be yourself. That's it for today.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Well, thank you for giving me the time to be here and have a chat. It's good to talk to you. But Mr. Lister, I think, still is. I'm going to copyright that name, Mr. Lister. Quick, Mr. Lister, copyright. You'll be back. You'll be back, and you'll be paying me money.
No, I'm not that sort of person.
BL, you're a star. Thank you ever so much.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me, Steve. It's been a pleasure to you all. Hope you all will learn something, and I hope you all enjoy it. Right, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. For one more time, please give it up for the legendary Steve Coleman. Don't forget, this will be available on my Wix website and my YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. And thanks very much for watching and listening. And that's a wrap.